And over the last few weeks, I took a little break from Road Warrior, but finally I have, well, dusted off the proverbial show and, well, kicked it off with quite a showstopper, specifically the 2020 Ram Rebel 1500. And as you can tell, it's adorned in kind of this all monochromatic black exterior. And what's more impressive is what lies beneath that hood. One aspect about the pickup truck market is, well, it's not really anymore just about how much you can tow, how much, well, gravel you can throw in the back, but how good you look while you do it. Now, this week I got behind the wheel of this striking 1500, and what was most pronounced is, well, people took notice. I'd be somewhere and say, hey, aren't you driving that Ram 1500? Others would be like, ooh, I love that exterior. Did they even talk about the turbo diesel under the hood or, well, the payload in the back? Well, eventually, what they liked is what we all see right here. Now, where it starts is, of course, at the four corners. This has been a trend across the industries, from SUVs to vehicles and, of course, pickup trucks, that smoky exterior at the four corners. That contrasts, of course, several years back where chrome was the true accent. And I'm not a big fan of that look because it tends to look like a Mr. T starter kit with all the blinging out. This, a more monochromatic, subdued approach, is kind of my cup of tea. Now, I know what you're thinking, hey, that was only a quick glance at the grill warfare, but you know how I roll. I like to give that its own attention and, well, save the best for last. So before we get there, we got to sweep around this vehicle. Where it starts is at the corner, specifically a 275/70 wrapping 18-inch wheel, and naturally a nice beefy tire to go with this off-road vehicle. Now, one thing from a novice standpoint, I would assume that would give some road harshness that would translate there to the driver, but I couldn't sense any at all, whether noise or kind of roughness. One thing that helped smooth out the bumps was the optional air suspension on this vehicle. If you don't opt for that, you go with the coil springs, which still delivers quite a smooth ride, but if you can upgrade when you can, that's one place to do it. Now, going back to the exterior, the black on black obviously is all the way around. The signature for this vehicle at the door handles, the pillars, the mirrors, even the step rail. And even for my 6'2" frame, that even came in handy. One thing I try to live by is brain over brawn, mainly because my muscle tone is fairly lacking and my brain does just enough to get me by. But here on the Ram 1500, you could say it's the best of both worlds. Brawn when you need it, and brain to make life so much easier. And where it starts is right here on the outside. Now, ingress into vehicles gotten so much easier, smart key systems, we all know this, but it's, well, intuitive here on the Ram. Basically, take your hand, slide it in here, the vehicle knows you're there, unlocks with ease. As you walk away, just simply press right there. One thing that falls short just a hair is the innovations as you sweep back. Now, there is a button right here that seems to be integrated with the rest of the ingress, but not the case. This is just simply the release electronically when you get back here. The only thing is the vehicle has to be unlocked. So naturally, once you unlock it, just simply go back and interact with the Ram box. Not that big of a stumbling block. Once you do that, this pops open with ease. And of course, you do have the old school key function that you can lock this up manually. Now, once you do, look inside the good old Ram box that we know, right over the rear wheel wells, nice deep compartments, has a nice drain there so you can put ice in here, whatever you want. Tools, lock it up, keeps it nice and secure. Grill warfare certainly stands out when it comes to manufacturers and their designs, everyone competing with grabbing attention at first glance. But in the truck industry, you could say the biggest attention is going on back here. The tailgate wars of, let's say, 2019 and 2020, as this end starts to transform to make life easier and adapt to how we want to interact back here. Now, before we get there, let's talk about design. First off, again, the black sweeping all the way around, Rebel emblazoned over there. Even the Ram, no chrome here, emblazoned in black, again, darkening the overall look. Safety, of course, back here with backup sensors, backup camera. One thing to note, with ingress into the back, a lot of trucks are putting a little niche step here, not found on the Ram. I do like that this is your good old standard step, but obviously in the traditional sense of the tailgates, this becomes obsolete. With the tailgate down, again, kind of a jumping affair to get in. Ram eventually will get there with adapting some type of step on the outer side. But one thing it definitely have done is redesign this. Now over at General Motors on the GMC Sierras, what they've done is kind of a split tailgate system. Basically in the horizontal, the upper portion flips down, allows for kind of horizontal wood or what have you to go more horizontal versus vertical. Once that tailgate is then laid flat, there's kind of a step-in system with a handle, allows for a little bit more ingress, and naturally you get a little bit closer to your items in the tailgate. Ram does it just as good, and where it works is with more of a vertical split. First off, got two handle systems, upper handle and a lower. First off, electronic release right here, just simply press it. It's going to lower down nice and easy. Now the no banging affair, that naturally is where trucks have progressed, so great to see it here as well. This is good old traditional, a little far back to reach inside, and if you had to get ingress, naturally kind of a big step. That's the typical of how trucks have always operated here at the back end. But Ram makes it just a little bit more simple when it does this. Just simply press down on the handle, releases the left side, that swings open. Now naturally you can interact with it just like this, and look how close you are now to your cargo. Reach in there, tonneau cover, I'll talk about that in just a second, makes for a cavernous area, but it really allows you to get your items in. Naturally, if you have a lot of big items, well, you just simply pull the handle here. This swings out of place, and now you have just nice ingress into this rear cargo area. Now let's talk about some dimensions here at the back end. First off, this is a crew cab model. Two options when it comes to the rear cargo bed, 5'7" as you see here, or the 6'4", but for the Rebel, this specifically is how it was set up. Now up here is an optional tri-fold tonneau cover, folds back in 3 separate sections, ends up being tied down here when you want to leave it in place, and naturally you can of course remove it if you need the full verticalness of this cargo area. Other dimensions is the width between the wheelhouses, around 51 inches. Naturally that means a good 4x8 sheet of plywood can slide in with ease, to be expected. Now what I like about this tonneau cover, it really secures into place quite easily, and what you'll notice is these handles here. Now the way it operates is there's kind of a pull bar here at the back end. Just simply pull it down, that gives you this hook. As you lower it, that hook's going to couple right down to the bottom of this ridge. Then you spring it back into place, it cinches it down. Now once you want to fold it out like I'm doing here, just tuck that hook back in, tucks away, allows you to naturally and easily keep folding it back. Once you get back here, nice little strap that holds it into place. This allows for, well, items to be secured, one, out of the weather, and of course gives it again a nice slick overall look. Now we're almost done here at the back end, but there's one other accessory that was tucked way back in the back that you can utilize to help compartmentalize the rear cargo bed. What I'm referring to is once you lock this into place, close this rear tailgate, this acts almost like a little trunk area. So if you have small items that could sling around, this creates a nice little crevice. And the way it works is just simply put it, you have these built-in grooves along the side. That's going to allow you to put the feet there in the little niche. Just simply do that side there. As you position here on this side, as you go to close it, you'll feel it cinching in, getting tight. Then you just simply close it up. Then all you have to do is twist this here. That closes it all off. You can lock it, so of course it's stuck into place. And again, once this rear tailgate is closed down, nice compartment that can hold things in place. The cargo box is one big feature here on the Ram 1500, but the best and biggest feature has to be the crew cab area, really delivering people and comfort with ease. And when you combine these two areas, it makes for one lengthy truck, specifically around about 233 inches long, wheelbase about 144. Other two numbers to consider is height and width. Width around about 82 inches wide, height around about 77. But that's, well, only part of the equation. When you go off the beaten path, well, ground clearance is substantial. This again having that air suspension, basically meaning, well, you can increase it from the standard 8.2 or 8.7 inches, depending on if you have a skid plate, to around about 9.4 or 9.9 inches in off-road level 1. Well, if you want to go a little bit more extreme, well, go to 10.3 inches or 10.8 inches, again, if you have a skid plate or no skid plate. But lastly is, well, making everyone happy when they get in the vehicle. That means you can drop this vehicle to around about 2 inches lower. That, well, just helps people climb in with ease. Now, before we get into the grill warfare, let's talk about the power plant on the hood. Now, I mentioned this was a diesel, but don't think big block. Think more of a eco diesel, a little bit smaller, specifically a 3.0 liter turbo diesel V6 engine. Now, it's going to live around about 260 horses and 480 foot-pounds of torque. It's coupled to an 8-speed automatic transmission. And with all that said, it offers a nice purr under the hood with, well, no noise going into the cabin. Last but not least is good old grill warfare, or should I say front end prowess, because it doesn't just start or stop here, but also encapsulates the whole front end. First off, with the nice raised and pronounced hood. Now, this venting all up here is implied, gives it a nice aggressive look. This venting actually does allow heat to escape. Up front, blackened grille, of course, to be expected. Darkened rammed accents. Now, there is active shutter control here in the front grille. Nice LED with some modest rope lighting around the outside. Lower lights, of course, down below. Parking sensors up front as well. That really comes in handy again for the nervous nanny behind the wheel. A little shimmy there at the steering wheel. Well, this makes life so much easier. Ultrasonic that really alerts you to exactly where the touchy points are. Even better, nice hook grab bars there if you get into some sticky situations, or better yet, pulling your friends out when they do. Now, it's hard to believe that I might actually say it may be better to be driven in this vehicle than to be the driver. And it all started because of, well, the accommodations there at the back end, specifically the amount of room to stretch out. But don't get me wrong, this is still first choice, mainly because you get to harness this beast. But what I like is the legroom numbers. First off, around about 40.9 inches here in the front, a whopping 45 inches there in the back. Pretty much what that means is, well, when you get to the job site, you may have to wake up your crew because they've easily stretched out. So what does 45 inches of legroom really equate to for this tall, lanky, goofy frame? Well, pretty much means, well, there's no knee bleeding affair. Once you climb inside, what you're going to notice is the amount of space really between your occupants and the front seat backs. With this seating as far back as it can go, you can tell that the leg room really has plenty of room to stretch out, even allow me to really feel comfortable. Now, naturally here at the back end of the crew cab, it's going to be somewhat of a vertical alignment, but once you stretch out, well, this is really lazy boy days. Now, as for the overall ergonomics, you can fit 3, no problem, right across here. But if you only have 2, nice center divide, dual cup holders, elbow support, elevated, really great overall comfort. With this amount of space for people, one thing this vehicle does well is transitioning to cargo, because on rainy days, do you want your items out there in the elements? Well, just simply transform what's going on back here. And it all starts pretty much with a nice easy pull of the rear seating, folds up and locks into place. And that gives you one nice seamless cargo floor. Now, you do notice that this has kind of a compartmentalized look, allowing you to put items under the seat so they don't slide around. But you do have this nice wall that folds flat. That pretty much means this becomes one nice seamless floor that you can put big items inside the vehicle. Now, one big difficult task on trucks is to keep backseat occupants comfortable, specifically with climate control. And as you can tell here on the Ram 1500, no tri-zone system to speak of. But what I do like that helps well compensate for that is the venting right behind the center console, right exactly where backseat drivers need it, really allowing that airflow to come in and out. And you can dampen it just a hair if it's too much. Now, other things to think about is you do have dual cup holders. That couples nicely both for the front occupants and the rear, pretty much allowing anyone to access these if they need it. Down below is connectivity in the form of the newer USB-C, USB, and a traditional household outlet. Now, once you climb inside the Ram 1500, this is where you notice that brawn is replaced by brain. The intuitiveness, the innovations makes life so much easier. And again, you don't have to use your muscle power, but instead just your simple brain power to navigate through this, and pretty much everything's exactly where you want it. Now, right here is the home screen, gives you this kind of split look, entertainment up top, climate in this case down below. However, in some cases the entertainment is just too simple. I can't really tell what channel I'm on, so to make life easier, shortcuts down below, just simply press that, it goes full screen. This really being my nice option, going between all the different functions. Again, down here at the bottom, climate, real easy to use. Dual zones up front, just simply take up, drag your different temperature up and down. Your mode selects real easy and obvious to look at, and of course some other shortcuts right across the top. Now what's interesting when it comes to climate controls is pretty much the buttons are all on the screen, but there are some nice shortcuts here on the outer side. Now one thing to note, I pretty much looked right past that and got aggravated because the fan control seemed to only be down here. Now when I'm on media, now I want to change the climate, I always felt like I had to go here, but well, if you look a little harder, it's naturally here on the side, and that's what I like about this system. Too much of one thing clutters it up or simplifies it down. But in the case of the Ram 1500, specifically with this screen, they do the best of all worlds. These shortcuts with the fan speed makes life so much easier. Temperature select right up here, again, so much easier. But again, you can integrate and use how you want going between the screens and traditional buttons. Now with the 12-inch screen, buttons are pretty much kept to a minimum, and the only other toggle switches are found low down here on the dash. Now this is for some other operations, specifically the air suspension, traction control, tow haul mode, and turning on and off the parking sensors both in the front and the back. Now that's helpful obviously if you're trailering, or if you know for a fact you're going to have to get close to things and you can see, you may want to turn these off because the alerts will just be annoying. Now down below is connectivity, USB-C, USB, both for the passenger and driver, aux cord in the middle. Even better, places to put your devices. Squeeze them right through here. The cords can easily tuck away. This allows you to keep all your items nice and secure when you're going down the road. So the Ram 1500 has tons of options when it comes to storage, and there's a huge compartment right here between the front occupants. And I know what you're thinking, where is the cup holders that typically would be here? Now before we get there, there's also another household outlet tucked way down low there. But what I like is instead of a removable cup holders that you can move back and forth, here on the Ram 1500, nice slidability to this tray. Pretty much just release it right here. This goes back and forth, so as you need beverages, they come exactly where you need it. Another shallow tray positioned back here. When these aren't needed, you need more of a storage, you can simply slide them back, and naturally things can stay down there all the time, and you can, well, hide them away. Once you lift the center console, you'll notice that this compartment goes from back to front, back and forth, and this upper tray again can slide back and forth. So obviously, if you prefer to leave that up front, more of your storage will be under the center console. Now for the center console, nice oversized, padded, really great for elbow support. It does lift up and give you a nice upper shallow tray with connectivity in the form of a USB and a nice channel here to extend those cables out should you want to interact with your phone out here in the open. For gear selection, you will find this selector knob here on the dash, as well as your 2-wheel drive and 4-wheel drive modes. Gauge cluster is pretty much straightforward with analog tach and speedometer, but the center is really where all the action is, specifically with a nice huge digital readout for speed and tons of other selector options when you scroll through using the controls there on the steering wheel. Now just because I'm 6 feet tall and easily can stretch out for the pedals, the Ram 1500 does adjust to different heights, specifically with the adjustable pedals for the driver. The Ram 1500 has tons of safety systems, from lane departure, blind spot awareness, as well as adaptive cruise control. Pretty much set the cruise, the space in between you and other drivers, and the Ram will pretty much handle it from there. Now over on the left side, again, the controls for changing the screen there on the gauge cluster, as well as shortcuts for your phone. Now that does for this edition of Road Warrior and a test drive behind the wheel of the 2020 Ram 1500 Rebel Edition with this black sporty facade. And what really got me revved up was, of course, that modest diesel under the hood, the innovations here on the crew cabin, well, naturally the workability here at the back end. And when you put the full package together and delivered in a facade like this, well, the first thing that gets noticed is, well, the cover of this book. Well, certainly it's got more than that, and once people open the first page, well, they'll definitely love what lies inside. Now, as always, thank you for watching this edition of Road Warrior. Keep both hands on the wheel and eyes straight ahead.